Numerous reports indicate that manufacturing has emerged as the favorite target of ransomware groups and hackers. In response, a new report from Industrial Media discusses the evolution of industrial cybersecurity, its current state, and the tactics hackers are using, including phishing schemes, malware, and ransomware attacks. It also details solutions in arming manufacturers with the knowledge and resources needed to win more fights on this highly complex and ultra-competitive battlefield. Download the industrial sector's new battlefield by going to manufacturing.net/cyber. Hi, I'm Jeff Franke, Editorial Director of Manufacturing.net and Manufacturing Business Technology. Welcome to Security Breach. The landscape of industrial cybersecurity continues to change and evolve and demands a vigilant monitoring of the next threat, vulnerability, potential soft spot in our defenses. That's why we continue to produce Security Breach and, by the way, continue to be so appreciative of this growth and support we've received from every one of you. That said, once in a while, it's good to take a look back at some of the ongoing lessons that we're learning, especially when the input from our guests offers such an interesting range of responses. So, with that in mind, let's take a minute, or maybe a couple more, to reflect on the notion of an over-connected industrial enterprise and hear from a collection of previous guests as they reflect on the challenges and opportunities, more connection points, and how they responded to the question, are we over-connected? First, let's listen to a diverse collection of responses from Joel Burleson Davis. He's the Senior Vice President of Cyber Engineering at Imprivata. Then we'll go to Josh Williams. He's a Strategic Account Manager at Iris Risk. And wrap it up with Roman Arutinoff, co-founder of Zage Security. You know, the other points you made there, and I just wanted to get a little bit deeper into this, is you talked about everything's being connected to the internet now. Everybody's in a real hurry to do that for a lot of beneficial reasons. There's better data flow, being able to share information more quickly, all of that. Are we overdoing it? Does a lot of the stuff that we are connecting to the internet, does it need to be? You know?
Yeah, I think probably, especially consumer stuff. Like, so there's an industrial dynamics around being able to get telemetry off the floor and things like that. That's all really useful, and being able to pump some of that data back to, like a big cloud service that has almost unlimited compute power to get some cool analytics about how you're, operating. But like, I think often, like internet connected refrigerators, right? Or like who do you really need? Like, I don't know if we really need that. It's like everything that gets built, no matter how small or big, sort of is internet connected. I think that's overdone, because you have to be really thoughtful. And I think often that when people are building solutions, being really thoughtful, what's the actual end goal of this? Like, what's the benefit of utility? And we did go through, and I hope we're coming off of this mountain a little bit, where the technology was so exciting that we went technology first rather than like use case first. And so there's probably a ton of stuff that's connected that shouldn't be connected. There's probably like a ton of features and things that shouldn't even exist, and they're just like attack surface now because we just wanted to play with cool new shiny toys. But I think, when you get into, you think about industries that are going to get targeted because they have data and money, like new shiny toys can be scary because it's like, I need to make sure that every feature on here I'm going to use or I can disable. If not, that's just like one more piece of my attack surface that someone could go after.
No, great point. And it's interesting because especially in the industrial sector, hopefully when people are starting to do sort of that inventory management or that asset management plan, they're looking at the connections as well to see if it really does make sense. I think we've seen some definite leaps forward in terms of limiting access. Not everybody needs to see every single dashboard, and hopefully that helps sort of further that conversation as well.
Yeah, I find it, particularly industrials, at this really interesting because they are rapidly digitizing. Quite some time ago, really before before the modern sort of like consumer technology, like post-internet scenario, industrial technology was some of the coolest stuff you could do, right? And embedded programming was awesome and super neat, and you could do all sorts of really clever stuff. It took a lull for a while, but you have those same competencies, like taking the new technology we built over a little, and they're building really cool stuff, right? Like new things, right? That embedded technology expertise, highly functional, right? Optimization, engineering and all that combined with new technology I think we're starting to put out a lot of cool new stuff, almost like a leapfrog the like 2000s and 2010s and whatever, which is neat. But like, of course, there's got to be a settling period for some of that as well.
No, definitely a leap before we looked type of dynamic with a lot of
Oh,
these
totally.
connection points.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So you mentioned how some of these legacy systems are just not meant to do some of the things we want to do. We have monitoring issues. We have inventory management concerns when it comes to all these connection points. Are we over connected on the OT side? I know we want to leverage all of this ability to share information and grab data. Have we gone a step too far? Do we need to step back a little bit?
Um, well, I think you're going to judge me on my cybersecurity prowess based on this answer because I say no. I
Okay.
mean, I don't believe we are. Here's why, and this is from my experience. There is so much upside to having, you know, to having this type of connectivity in.
Yeah.
It is an important business feature. Being able to monitor your chillers, being able to know what's going on when it's happening, being able to have historical data, being able to create more efficient operations. That is going to happen, and it needs to happen. It's good for business. It's good for, if we were to talk about, utility companies, public works utility companies. As scared as we are of something happening to our water system, I think one of the important things is that we still have good, efficient working water systems that get better. So whenever I look at it, I say, yeah, it is kind of scary, and that's a lot of work. But at the end of the day, I think being connected is better. I think having this information is better. I'm very optimistic about it. I think there's so much more upside to having it connected than the downside. However, in 2030, if everything hits the fan, don't come back to this and say like, "Oh boy, that dude, he should have been so optimistic about it." But I am optimistic about it. I think the connectivity is good ultimately for business for all of us.
Yeah, and I'll take the ultimate like waffling response to that one because I think as an industry, as this industry sector, we do need more connectivity. There's, if you take a wide swap at everything there and just say overlapping concern or a response, manufacturing needs more connectivity, and we need to continue going down that route. I think there are some organizations, individual organizations, who need to look a little bit more closely at everything that they have connected to the internet and really delve into if all of that is necessary. I think it is a very individual dynamic. Overall, I think we're on the right track and need to continue down this road of greater connectivity. Once in a while, we go a little too far, and the bad guys figure it out. So that's a little bit of, I guess, I'm probably too far in the middle there. Maybe I need to take a stronger stance.
No, and I think I heard it. I think it was on y'all's last podcast where y'all are talking about, there's like dishwashers plugged in with Bluetooth, okay, I'm with you there. There are some IoT devices where, because I think my washing machine does it. And my wife and I were talking about it. This is months ago, but she was like, should I have it? I'm like, for what? Like, what? Like, do you want to get a ding on your iPhone every time the dryer's finished? Like, it already plays like this little beautiful digital tune for us. Like, do you need another thing for knowing that things are dry? So, and with that in mind, I believe there is a point to where we're going too far. But at the end of the day, I come from this idea of like the more data, the better. The more we can measure, the better. The more historical information, the better. And so that's probably why I trend in that direction. But don't tell me my dishes are done for my dishwasher. Don't care to know that.
I'm with you there.
So I have pretty good, strong opinions about this. I mean, it just depends on what you look at, right? So oftentimes, if you look at control systems, they are designed to work in a sort of predefined way. The way you configure it, or the way you program it, that is the way the system it needs to operate, right? It will be designed to operate. It doesn't actually require this any-to-any connectivity, right? So that a network gives you, right? So where everything's connected to everything. But it is used, today's IP networking, IP network in general, that's the power, right? You can connect anything to anything, right? So over a network. control systems don't necessarily need that, but at the same time they use networks, so they get that, right? So the way to really you know to design cyber solution for control system is really adapt the network to operate the way the control system needs it, right? And you can do so through access policies and through interaction controls, just like I described previously with Zage, and that it's sort of that creates that limits the purpose of connectivity of network for the purposes of that control system for production of specific type of a equipment or process or product. It doesn't just create this any-to-any connectivity for no reason.
Mm-hmm. No, makes a lot of sense. And now some more definitive answers to that same question about too many connections from Chris Lovejoy. She's Global Security and Resilience Leader at Kyndryl. Roland Casalino, the CTO and CIO of Insight Cyber. And we'll wrap it up with Sharon Briznov, Director of Research at Clarity's research arm, Team 82. With those denial of service attacks, a lot of times it seems to me anyways that we're connected to the internet in ways that we don't need to be. Are we over-connected? Are we relying too much on those connection points to share data?
I do think so. I think it's the same issue we have with just having a plethora of technologies that we have yet to inventory. We have a lot of network access points that we have yet to understand, and we keep adding them. And this is it's interesting. I think larger organizations, again, going back to kind of the affordability. A lot of them are moving to private 5G implementations. They're laying dark fiber. They're actually they're air gapping their facilities, their industry, their kind of manufacturing lines from the internet, but they're still able to communicate. Whereas the smaller organizations, they have to be internet, sort of enabled. So it's an interesting and perplexing topic that I'm not sure we actually have great answers for just yet.
Yeah, very interesting. When you're looking at all of these different ways that the bad guys can get at us, especially in the OT environment, I'm just wondering, are we over-connected? Do we have too much stuff talking to each other? Is there too many connections to the internet, all that kind of stuff?
Yes.
All right.
Were you expecting yes?
I've seen it go both ways, because we want to embrace all this new technology that we have and all this automation.
Does your refrigerator really need to talk to your TV? Let's be honest. Right. There's way too much communication going on. You do not know where the chips were manufactured. I've seen a Philips light bulb make a communication to China. Seriously?
Wow.
So, yes, stop it. Everybody thinks that this beauty of ease is all of these things talk to one another, and I touch my iPhone and I can turn my heat on and do this and do that. That is being sent somewhere.
Yeah, so as we move forward, there is this terminology of OT and IT convergence, which basically means that the OT becomes a little bit closer to the IT network. So it's not longer very separated or isolated or air-gapped. It's becoming hyper-connected. So we're seeing much more devices being connected at both sides of the networks between the IT side and the OT side. And these devices that kind of connect these networks expand the potential attack surface for attackers to gain more access and more exploitability into the network. So, for example, if one of the devices is using an outdated firmware, it's a great platform for attackers to abuse this fact and maybe exploit the outdated firmware in order to access this device and maybe expand a little more behind this device and maybe jump to other devices that are nearby, eventually getting to the OT network. So there is this saying goes that if it's something, it will be powered. If it's powered, it will be connected. So I'm not sure who said this, but basically this saying means that in modern times and obviously in the future, everything will be connected. Everything will be part of a network. And we're seeing this even today. We're seeing a lot of IoT devices that you cannot even imagine that exist in your building, in your apartment maybe. So you can control the lights because the lights are hyper connected. You can monitor the washing machine. You can monitor your refrigerator. So obviously in factories, the situation is much more complex because usually, at least new factories are contain these modern BMS system that contain a lot of different sensors and devices and IoT devices that are all hyper connected. So visibility is a key point here because you cannot protect against something that you're not aware of. So you first of all you must find all the devices, and as you said, you must have a good asset inventory. And to do this, you need to look for all the devices in the network, and it's a difficult task because there are so many of them. And each day, one of the factory employees decided to bring his daughter's iPad, and this daughter's iPad apparently had this malware. So now he connected this iPad to the Wi-Fi network, and so there are a lot of different examples of why it's very important to understand what you have in the network, because only then you can block or you can enable communication between these devices. So again, this is why visibility is a key point here.
Yeah. So not to keep harping on this, but it is an important conversation to have about visibility. And I think I know how you're going to answer this, but if we're struggling with all these visibility challenges, do we want to start cutting back or limiting some of the connectivity that we have? Are we over-connected in some way, shape, or form with all of these different new IoT assets on the plant floor?
It's very subjective answer, but I think so. I think we've come to a point that everything is hyper-connected. Every, toothbrush is connected to the Wi-Fi. I think it's crazy, but putting this aside, this is the reality, and we cannot turn away from the reality, and we're moving forward to the future. And in the future, everything will be connected, even your door in the entrance of your apartment. The windows will be, maybe today even, they're connected to the Wi-Fi. So everything is hyper connected. So we cannot look away. And because we cannot look away, because this is the reality, we need cybersecurity solutions to protect against unauthorized access to these devices. And we need a way to monitor these devices, and also a way to limit access from and to these devices. So this is why, first of all, we need visibility to understand what devices do we have, and then we need to enforce policies on the communication between these devices and other devices and maybe the internet. So we'll be sure that no unauthorized access will take place, and no malicious access will take place as well.
Well, that's going to wrap up this episode. Thanks so much for joining us today. And to catch up on past episodes, you can go to manufacturing.net, IEN.com, or mbtmag.com. You can also check Security Breach out wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Amazon, and Overcast. And if you have a cybersecurity story or topic that you'd like to have us explore in Security Breach, you can reach me at jeff@ien.com. I'm Jeff Ranke, and this is Security Breach.